The Tale of Genji by Lauren Pizarkowicz. The chapter I did my poem on is Chapter 10, Sasaki, a branch of sacred evergreen. In this chapter, Genji's wife has already passed away in the previous chapter, and many thought that he would take the Rujoku lady as his primary wife, like her ladies in waiting, and she, I think, kind of thought that as well. But their visits actually ceased altogether. However, they still exchanged letters to each other every once in a while, and she finally agreed to meet Genji, and Genji had been longing for her. Genji set out to see the Rujoku lady even though many months had passed since they'd seen each other. He went there with a few people who accompanied him, but they stayed behind as he went to meet Lady Rujoku. He went up to her at the veranda, and on his way to meet her, he passed a sacred evergreen, Sasaki, and broke off a small branch to give her as a peace offering because they had not seen each other in so long. The poem reads as, having made a signpost of my feelings, which like the color of this sacred branch will never fade. I have entered this holy compound, and yet how unfeeling you remain. She responded with a poem. With no cedar trees to serve as signposts to guide you to this sacred enclosure, have you in error brought Sasaki here? Genji replied as follows. Thinking you might be where the shrine maiden dwells, in longing I pluck this branch along the drawn by the fragrance of sacred evergreens. So the first thing I want to talk about this poem is the nature references that it has. The Sasaki branch is a sacred evergreen in their culture, and I think he broke that off just to show as a peace offering because he missed her so dearly. He was trying to show that he is apologizing for not seeing her in so long and showing that he is giving her this sacred branch because the relationship is sacred to him. It also shows symbolism to the title of this chapter. And I think, he gave this to show his romantic feelings for Lady Rujoku. And they use nature references a lot to show how they are expressing their emotions. They'll depict the nature scene in other poems to signal the mood of the setting that they're about to go into, and that can kind of help foreshadow some of the actions that happen throughout the chapters in the Tale of Genji. The use of poetry in this culture is very abundant. They like to just recognize it as an art of calligraphy, and this is very important when women are training to be wives and are courting men because good calligraphy shows that they are of high status and have good training. Genji in his story always notes how certain companions of his have beautiful strokes or really refined strokes, or some of them are thicker to cover mistakes. He just really points out the art of the calligraphy in this story, which is something that I thought was really interesting. They use poetry just as normal communication, which is something that I think is vastly different from our culture in the United States. I don't think poetry is used in the United States like it is in this other culture that the Tale of Genji is set in. They use it as greetings for one another. They use it as messages of missing someone. So Lady Rujoku and Genji would send poems of longing for one another. It was mostly Genji who would send it to Lady Rujoku. She was a little more despondent and responding to him. Women of court actually had daily journals also depicting poems in court. And they would also use special paper for certain people. So when Genji was writing to some of his women that were more of special quality to him, he would use a higher quality paper to show that they are of sacred importance. Likewise, women would send men letters with their perfume on it to show that their scent is on it. This is just another example how poetry is highly regarded in this culture and how people are always in use of this and are using it as a communication tool in every sort of form, way in life, in high court, low court.